Hi everyone, it's Ardith. Today I've got a video showing how I had an idea and then ended up with 3 Christmas cards using the same products in different combinations. I actually started by re-inking my Catherine Pooler Lime Rickey ink pad, and I thought you might be interested to see how easy it is. You know that I use these inks a lot, and I definitely recommend having the re-inker so that you're not worried about the ink pad drying out. I just put a bit of pressure on the bottle and I squeeze out drops all over the ink pad. Then I want it to be kind of spread out and soak in, and I've seen people use the backs of spoons and credit cards, but I never have those on hand, so I just use the tip of the bottle and very, very lightly kind of swirl it around and press the ink into the foam. You don't want to press too hard or you may rip the foam pad, although I've done that too and it still seems to work okay. Anyway, I'm doing a lot of direct-to-paper for these cards, so I needed a nice juicy ink pad. I started by cutting this Concord and 9th Joy die from a square panel of white cardstock. I'm going to be adding lots of product to the top of this cardstock, and I wasn't sure how it would work to die cut it later, so I figured a big chunky die cut would be easier to work with than a scripty one. I put some post-it tape behind the opening and I laid the letters back in so that I could treat it as one piece of cardstock for the next few steps. I started by going direct to paper with my Lime Rickey to color the whole thing green. Now you see why I wanted that ink pad really juicy. This method does use up quite a bit of ink, but it results in colored cardstock that matches any stamping I might want to do. At this point you can see variations in the color, but it smooths out beautifully as it dries. Next, I got out my new Gina K thick brush stencil, and I used some purple tape to attach the square panel to it. Then I used a life-changing blender brush and grass skirt ink to get a tone-on-tone look. These two greens are quite different. Lime Rickey is quite a bit more yellow than grass skirt, but they really work well together. Next, I got out some Nuvo Glimmer paste in Moonstone to also spread over the top for some festive sparkle. I'm still working on finding my best spreading technique. This Nuvo media spatula is flexible and it spreads it quite well, but I also really love this stencil pal from ThermoWeb. It spreads whatever you're spreading quite thin and evenly, since it's covering your whole panel at one time. But then that spatula works really well when I'm trying to get the paste into a specific spot, so I would say that I'm glad that I have both. You can see on the stencil pal that the paste is picking up color from the ink, so you really can't put it back into the pot. So it's all a balance of getting enough out of the pot for good coverage without going overboard and wasting it. And if you were hoping for some comic relief, well, here it is. I didn't want the letters drying into the spaces, so I tried to quickly and cleanly remove the purple tape and then get the letters out of the panel without messing up any of the stenciled sparkle. I won't make you suffer through the whole thing, but it was a little tricky. I am normally a clean and simple girl, so I'm still getting used to these mixed media type tricks. Once it was all dry, I used more post-it tape. I used the wider stuff this time, and I laid the letters back into their spots. And then I thought I'd do a little double stencil action, and I got out this Catherine Pooler Scattered Dots stencil to add some berries to my green scene. Once again, I taped my panel to the stencil so that it wouldn't move, and then I got out my new Gina K Glitz Glitter Gel in red velvet. I spread it out with the media spatula, making sure it got into all the holes, and I put the excess back into the jar. Then I pulled back the stencil, and you can see that my experiment wasn't a total success. The red kind of blobbed through, and it wasn't crisp in some places, and that was a bit disappointing. I got out my craft pick and I tried to clean some of it up, and as I did that, I figured out what had gone wrong. Because my panel had the Nuvo Glimmer paste on it, it wasn't flat, so it was easy for the red Glitz glitter gel to kind of ooze through the stencil and make a mess. But I was determined, so I gave it another shot. This time I trimmed the square panel and I cut the letters out, but I didn't use any Nuvo Glimmer paste, just the red Glitz glitter gel. Same steps. I taped the cardstock to my stencil, and then I used the spatula to spread the red Glitz glitter gel. I am having a hard time saying that. Anyway, I also used the stencil pal and I pulled it both vertically and horizontally to get good smooth coverage, and when I finally pulled the stencil away, my results were so much better. There were still a couple of spots where the dots weren't perfectly crisp, and those were the spots on the cut lines of the letters, so even that amount of unevenness in the cardstock impacts the stenciling, I guess. So here's the first card. I used a sentiment strip to cover up the least beautiful areas, and I think it's still usable. I used black cardstock to pop up the letters and give a bit of a shadow. The second part is probably my favorite. I love the pop of the red berries and all those green leaves. But I had to go back and do one more. This one only has the Nuvo Glimmer paste on it, and I die cut the letters with the Nuvo Glimmer paste on it, and it was fine. I used white cardstock this time to pop up these letters, and I added some red Essentials by Ellen droplets as my berries for a different look. I hope you enjoyed watching me experiment and figure things out a little bit. For me, it's the only way to really find out how far I can go with these new products. Which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration. Product links are below in the description and also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.